The sands shuddered as alien dropships screamed over the Mojave Dunes, disgorging armored Qatarian shock troops to seize control of Earth's arid lands with brutally efficient speed. Humanity's militaries crumpled under the sudden onslaught of superior alien tech as the Qatarians sought to plunder a rare mineral essential to their advanced civilization. Amidst the chaos, an unlikely resistance stirred in the unforgiving desert, grizzled survivalists, nomadic wanderers, and discarded soldiers, all intimately familiar with the harsh, deadly landscape the aliens sought to tame. Nathan Harris, an ex-Army Ranger living off-grid in a camouflage shelter nestled among the barren ridges, watched grimly as the shimmering alien craft descended on the distant horizon. Rage and determination surged through his veins. He knew these desert dunes and canyons like the creases of his sun-weathered skin, and he would make the invaders bleed for every inch of it. On board the Qatarian command ship, Commander Pollux surveyed the swift progress of the shock troops with a satisfied air. The primitives' military forces lay shattered. The desert would soon be theirs, the rare mineral within their grasp. Reports reached him of small pockets of resistance, but he dismissed them with a sneer. Let the human stragglers scurry among the rocks and dunes like insects. Qatarian plasma cannons and phase shields would flatten any opposition with ease. In hidden caves and secret desert rendezvous, Harris rallied the survivors, forging them into a guerrilla strike force. They would hit the aliens fast and hard, then melt away like mirages. The desert was their ally, and they would make it the Qatarians' burial ground. Strikes and ambushes bloodied the aliens, sowing chaos and fear. As word spread, more survivors rallied to the cause, ready to fight for their homes with improvised weapons and the desert's merciless embrace. The stage was set for a primal clash in the unforgiving furnace of the Mojave Desert. Outgunned and outnumbered, the human resistance would pit grit and audacity against alien tech and armor. The desert sands would run red as desperate fighters met unyielding invaders in a battle for Earth's survival. Against all odds, humanity refused to surrender its cradle without a brutal, bloody struggle that would echo through the ages. As the Qatarian stranglehold tightened, whispers of a growing resistance reached Nathan Harris in his desert hideaway. Scattered bands of fighters struck alien patrols and supply lines, their boldness and cunning inspiring hope amidst the occupation. Harris knew the time had come to unite these disparate groups into a force capable of driving the invaders from Earth's sands. Venturing from his shelter, Harris rallied the resistance, his tactical acumen and knowledge of the desert swiftly earning their allegiance. Under his guidance, they launched coordinated strikes against critical Qatarian outposts, crippling the aliens' communications and supply chains. The Mojave itself became a weapon, its unforgiving heat and terrain sapping the strength and commitment of the Qatarian troops. Amidst the guerrilla campaign, an enigmatic figure emerged from the dunes. Asim Khoury, a battle-hardened Saharan nomad with a shadowed past, sought out Harris, offering his skills and tribal connections to the cause. The two men forged an uneasy alliance, Khoury's desert survival expertise complementing Harris's military precision. Together they launched ever bolder raids, striking fear into the hearts of the alien occupiers. In the Qatarian command ship, Pollux seethed as reports of the resistance's gains flooded in. The human vermin were proving more resilient than anticipated, their primitive hit-and-run tactics frustrating his efforts to secure the precious mineral deposits. In a rage, he unleashed the dreaded sand wraiths, elite desert combat units armed with advanced heat-resistant armor and powerful plasma rifles. The wraiths pursued the resistance fighters deep into the dunes, their relentless onslaught forcing Harris and Khoury to adapt their strategies. Recognizing the need to counter the sand wraith's technological edge, Harris sought out Dr. Adnan Singh, a brilliant engineer rumored to have developed cutting-edge survival gear in a hidden desert laboratory. Singh's inventions, EMP grenades, thermal cloaking suits, and portable energy shields, could help level the playing field against the Qatarians. But reaching Singh would mean a perilous journey across hundreds of miles of alien-controlled wasteland. As Harris and Khoury made plans to contact Singh, grim news reached the resistance. The Qatarians had begun enslaving human captives, forcing them to toil in the brutal conditions of their mining operations. Khoury paled as he learned a name among the prisoners, Zara Osman, a fierce Bedouin warrior from his past. The fight against the invaders had become personal, the stakes higher than ever. In hidden caves and secret desert enclaves, Harris and Khoury honed their plan to infiltrate the primary Tarian mining complex. Singh's prototype gear would be key to breaching the facility's defenses and freeing the human slaves. As the resistance fighters prepared for the audacious raid, they steeled their dedication, knowing failure would doom Earth's deserts to alien subjugation. The sun beat down mercilessly as the motley band of fighters gathered, united by grit and purpose. Hovercraft engines thrummed and weapons clicked, the thrum of impending battle electrifying the air. Harris and Khoury exchanged grim nods, the unspoken bond of brothers in arms passing between them. The road ahead would be bathed in blood and sand, but they would not yield. For the sake of the human captives, for the freedom of Earth's deserts, they would fight to their last breath. With a roar of engines, the resistance convoy tore across the dunes, racing toward the distant plumes of dust that marked the alien mining complex. Plasma fire seared the air as Tarian perimeter drones swooped to engage, the first clash in a battle that would decide the fate of two worlds. Amidst the chaos and carnage, Harris and Khoury charged ahead, dedication burning in their eyes, ready to bring the fight to the heart of the invaders' operation. The roar of engines faded as Harris brought the resistance convoy to a halt, the shimmering heat haze obscuring their approach to Dr. Singh's hidden laboratory. Khoury slid from the lead vehicle, his keen eyes scanning the seemingly barren landscape for signs of life or danger. "There," he murmured, pointing to a barely perceptible distortion in the rocky outcropping before them. Harris nodded, signaling the team to advance cautiously. As they neared, a section of rock face slid aside, revealing a narrow entrance. Dr. Adnan Singh emerged, his weathered face creased with worry and exhaustion. "Quickly!" he urged, ushering the resistance fighters inside. "The Qatarian patrols have been increasing lately." The cool air of the underground facility washed over them as Singh led the group through a maze of corridors. The lab was a testament to human ingenuity, cobbled together from salvaged equipment and repurposed alien tech. "This is incredible," Harris breathed, taking in the array of prototypes and inventions lining the walls. Singh's eyes gleamed with pride. "Let me show you what we've been working on." Over the next few hours, Singh demonstrated his creations: EMP grenades that could disable Tarian shields, heat-resistant armor that could withstand plasma fire, and desert-optimized vehicles that could outmaneuver the aliens' heavy transports. As the resistance fighters familiarized themselves with the new gear, an urgent transmission crackled over their comms. The voice was strained, barely audible through bursts of static. "Labor camps. Humans forced to mine. Conditions are brutal." Khoury's head snapped up, his face tightening as he recognized the speaker. "Zara," he whispered. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Harris turned to Khoury, seeing the mix of pain and commitment in his eyes. "We need to move now," Khoury said, his voice low and intense. Harris nodded, his mind already formulating a plan. "Dr. Singh, how quickly can you get us combat-ready with this new tech?" Singh's response was swift and confident. "Give me 2 hours." The next 120 minutes were a flurry of activity. Fighters donned the new armor, familiarizing themselves with its enhanced mobility. Weapons were modified, vehicles outfitted with EMP shielding. As the team prepared to move out, Harris gathered them for a final briefing. "We hit them hard and fast. EMP devices will take out their defenses. Team 1, with me, we breach the main facility. Team 2, led by Khoury, focuses on prisoner extraction." The convoy tore across the desert, kicking up great plumes of sand in their wake. As they crested a final dune, the Qatarian mining complex loomed before them, a monolithic scar on the landscape. Harris raised his hand, signaling the attack. EMP devices arced through the air, detonating in brilliant flashes that sent cascading failures through the alien defenses. Alarms blared as the resistance fighters surged forward. Plasma fire sizzled past Harris as he led the charge into the main facility. The new armor held, deflecting shots that would have been lethal mere hours ago. Qatarian sand wraiths emerged to meet them, their movements hampered by the malfunctioning systems. In the labor camps, Khoury's team moved with swift efficiency. They cut through locks and disabled restraints, freeing scores of emaciated prisoners. Among them, he found Zara, her once fierce eyes now hollow with exhaustion and pain. Their eyes met, a flood of unspoken history passing between them in an instant. "Let's get you out of here," Kuri said softly, helping her to her feet. As the resistance fighters began to withdraw with the liberated prisoners, the sky darkened with the arrival of Katarian dropships. Commander Pollux's reinforcements had arrived, intent on crushing the human insurgency once and for all. Harris's voice crackled over the comms, urgent but controlled. "All units, fall back to extraction points. We've dealt them a blow, but we need to get these people to safety." The resistance convoy roared to life, weaving through the chaos of battle as they raced for the relative safety of the open desert. Behind them, the Katarian mining complex burned, a testament to humanity's refusal to bow before the alien invaders. As they sped away, Harris knew the true test was yet to come. They had struck a significant blow, but the Katarians would retaliate with even greater force. The resistance would need every ounce of skill, courage, and newfound technology to survive the storm that was surely coming. The desert wind howled, carrying the acrid stench of burning metal and scorched sand. Harris surveyed the smoldering ruins of the Tarian mining complex, his face etched with grim satisfaction. The raid had been a success, but he knew it was merely the opening salvo in a much larger war. "We've bloodied their nose," Kuri said, coming to stand beside him. "But they'll hit back harder." Harris nodded, his mind already racing with plans. "Then we strike first, everywhere." Over the next weeks, the resistance transformed into a global force. Encrypted messages crisscrossed the planet, coordinating simultaneous attacks on Katarian strongholds from the Sahara to the Gobi. Harris directed the operations from a mobile command center, guiding teams as they sabotaged alien communications arrays and raided supply depots. In the Thar Desert, Zara Osman led a daring assault on a Katarian fuel depot. Her team moved like ghosts through the night, planting Singh's EMP devices. The resulting explosion lit up the sky for miles, crippling alien air support across the region. But for every victory, the aliens exacted a terrible price. Commander Pollux's fury manifested in searing beams of light that rained down from orbit, vaporizing entire swaths of Earth's deserts. The resistance base in the empty quarter vanished in a blinding flash, leaving nothing but a glass-fused crater. Harris banged his hand on the command table, his face twisted with rage and grief. Hundreds dead, just gone. Dr. Singh approached, his eyes haunted but determined. "I may have a solution, but it's beyond risky." He laid out plans for a cobbled-together ion cannon, powerful enough to punch through Tarian shields and cripple their ships. But gathering the components would require multiple high-risk missions deep into occupied territory. "It's madness," Kuri said, shaking his head. "It's our only shot," Harris countered. He divided the resistance into 3 teams, each tasked with retrieving crucial elements for Singh's weapon. Kuri's team infiltrated a Tarian research facility in the Kalahari, narrowly escaping with a cache of power cells. Harris led a raid on an alien manufacturing plant in the Atacama, securing the cannon's focusing crystals in a firefight that left half his squad wounded. Zara's mission to Kazakhstan proved the most pivotal. In the midst of liberating a Katarian prison camp, she discovered Dr. Ekram Aziz, a gaunt figure who clutched a battered datapad like a lifeline. "The mineral," Aziz gasped, his eyes feverish. "It's not just a resource, it's the key to their entire colonization plan." Back at the resistance base, Aziz revealed the true scope of the Katarian invasion. The aliens weren't simply conquering Earth. They aimed to transform it, using the desert mineral as a catalyst to reshape entire planets into lush paradises suited for Katarian physiology. "If we don't stop them here," Aziz warned, "Earth is just the first of countless worlds they'll assimilate." With renewed urgency, the resistance redoubled their efforts. Singh's cannon took shape in a hidden canyon, guarded day and night by their fiercest fighters. But even as the weapon neared completion, a critical problem emerged. They had no way to target the Katarian fleet's vulnerable reactor core. Harris knew what had to be done. Under cover of a massive diversionary attack, he infiltrated Pollux's command ship. Dodging patrols and hacking security systems, He fought his way to the main control room. Just as he located the reactor schematics, a stun blast caught him in the back. He awoke in a holding cell, face to face with Commander Pollux himself. The alien's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Your resistance has been impressive," Pollux said, his translator conveying genuine respect, "but ultimately futile." To Harris's shock, Pollux revealed an unexpected wrinkle. A Terrian separatist movement had been monitoring Earth's struggle, viewing it as a potent symbol against their own government's expansionist policies. "Your planet's defiance has sparked something unexpected among my people," Pollux admitted. A coded transmission pinged Harris's stolen communicator. The separatists had sent targeting data directly to the Resistance's ion cannon. Hope surged through him, tempered by the knowledge that he was trapped aboard the very ship they needed to destroy. As alarms blared throughout the vessel, Harris met Pollux's alien gaze. The coming moments would determine the fate of two worlds. The ship shuddered violently, claxons blaring as a deafening impact rocked the vessel. Harris's eyes widened, realizing the Resistance had launched their attack. Pollux's mandibles clicked rapidly, his alien features contorting in what could only be alarm. "What have you done?" the commander hissed, shoving Harris against the cell wall. Before Harris could respond, the door slid open, revealing a Catarian officer. "Commander, we're under heavy ion bombardment. Shields are failing." Pollux released Harris, barking orders in his native tongue. As the alien rushed from the cell, Harris seized his chance. He slipped through the closing door, ducking into a nearby maintenance shaft as chaos erupted around him. On the planet's surface, Asim Khoury watched the sky light up with ionic energy. The cannon's beams sliced through the atmosphere, striking Pollux's flagship with devastating precision. Cheers erupted from the Resistance fighters, but Khoury's elation was short-lived. "Multiple bogies inbound," Zara Osman's voice crackled over the comm. "Catarian dropships, ETA 2 minutes. Khoury sprinted to the command center, where Dr. Singh hunched over a bank of monitors. The scientist's face was grim as he delivered the news. "The cannon's damaged. We can't generate another full-power shot." "Options?" Khoury demanded, mind-racing. Singh's eyes gleamed with a mix of commitment and resignation. "We overload the reactor. One final blast, powerful enough to finish the job." Khoury understood the implication. "You'll be killed." Singh nodded. "A worthy sacrifice if it means Earth's freedom." As Singh began the overload sequence, the ground shook with the impact of Catarian orbital strikes. Khoury rushed outside to organize the defenses. The Resistance fighters took up positions, their faces set with grim persistence as the alien dropships descended. The air filled with the whine of plasma weapons and the acrid smell of ozone. Khoury ducked behind a makeshift barricade, returning fire as the first wave of Catarian troops advanced. To his left, Zara led a squad in a flanking maneuver, her movements fluid and precise despite a visible limp. The battle raged, a desperate struggle to protect the cannon until its final, devastating blast. Khoury watched in horror as nightmarish sand wraiths emerged from the Terrian lines, their alien forms rippling with lethal intent. "Fall back!" he shouted, organizing a fighting retreat. "Zara, take your team and—" His words were cut off by a deafening explosion. The overloaded ion cannon detonated in a blinding flash of energy, its shockwave sweeping across the battlefield. Khoury was thrown to the ground, ears ringing as he struggled to his feet. Through the settling dust, he saw the sand wraiths had been obliterated. In the sky above, Pollux's flagship listed, trailing fire and debris as it began its uncontrolled descent. Khoury stumbled forward, searching for survivors. He found Zara sprawled behind a fallen slab of concrete, her breathing shallow but steady. As he cradled her head, shielding her from the rain of burning wreckage, Khoury's eyes locked on the disintegrating alien vessel. Somewhere up there, Nathan Harris's fate hung in the balance, and as the flagship plummeted earthward, Khoury knew the war for Earth's deserts was far from finished. The flagship's descent traced a fiery arc across the sky, raining debris over the scorched battlefield. Khoury blinked away the afterimage of the ion cannon's detonation, his ears still ringing from the blast. He carefully lifted Zara, her breathing shallow but steady, and carried her to a makeshift triage area. As the dust settled, the true extent of the devastation became clear. The Qatarian vessel had broken apart on impact, scattering wreckage across miles of desert. Khoury organized search and rescue teams, dispatching them to scour the crash sites for survivors, both human and alien. "Any sign of Harris?" Khoury asked, scanning the horizon. Dr. Singh shook his head, his face smudged with soot. "Nothing yet, but we're picking up scattered transmissions from the wreckage. Pollux survived." Khoury's mind focused. Then so did Harris. He wouldn't go down that easily. Days passed in a blur of rescue operations and frantic intelligence gathering. Zara, now recovered enough to join the command team, decrypted a fragment of Tarian communications. "It's worse than we thought," she reported, her voice tense. "Pollux is rallying his remaining forces for a massive counterattack. We need to act fast." Harris's voice crackled over the comm, eliciting gasps of relief from the assembled resistance fighters. "I'm inside what's left of the flagship. Pollux is gone, but I've got an idea. We need to take him out before he can regroup." Dr. Aziz, the gaunt scientist they'd rescued from the Qatarian prison camp, leaned forward. "I can help pinpoint his location. The mineral they're mining, it leaves a unique energy signature. If Pollux is coordinating from a new base, I can track it." Hours of painstaking analysis narrowed their search to the empty quarter of Arabia. Satellite imagery revealed a hidden Tarian outpost nestled among towering dunes. Harris assembled a strike team, himself, Khoury, Zara, and Aziz. They boarded a stealth dropship, the pre-dawn sky tinged with the first hints of sunrise as they soared towards their target. The landing zone erupted in chaos as they touched down. Qatarian sandstorm commandos materialized from the swirling sand, their weapon fire cutting through the air. Khoury dove for cover, returning fire as Harris led the charge towards the base entrance. "It's a trap!" Zara shouted, her warning nearly lost in the din of battle. A plasma bolt caught Khoury in the side, searing through his armor. He stumbled, gritting his teeth against the pain. "Go!" he yelled to the others. "I'll hold them off!" Harris hesitated for a split second before nodding grimly. He, Zara, and Aziz pressed on, fighting their way deeper into the alien stronghold. They found Pollux in a command center filled with unfamiliar technology. The Tarian commander's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement or anger. "You are persistent, human," Pollux said, his translator conveying grudging respect. "But your species' defiance ends here." Harris didn't waste time with words. He charged, dodging a vicious swipe from Pollux's clawed arm. The two grappled, a desperate struggle of human perseverance against alien strength. Zara and Aziz provided covering fire, holding off waves of Qatarian reinforcements. The air filled with the acrid smell of ozone and burning circuitry as stray shots struck delicate equipment. Harris landed a solid blow, staggering Pollux. The alien commander stumbled back, his hand brushing a control panel. A high-pitched whine filled the air, growing in intensity. "You've accomplished nothing," Pollux snarled. "My death will only hasten your planet's end." The room shook, debris raining down as explosions tore through the base. Harris grabbed Zara and Aziz, shoving them towards the exit. "Run!" They sprinted through collapsing corridors, the roar of destruction nipping at their heels. Outside, they found Khoury propped against their dropship, his face pale but determined. "I thought I told you to go," he said weakly as Harris hauled him aboard. The ship lifted off, narrowly escaping the fireball that consumed Pollux's base. As they soared over the desert, Harris allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction, but the victory felt hollow as he considered Pollux's final words. Back at the Resistance headquarters, Dr. Singh and Aziz pored over data recovered from the Qatarian base. Their faces grew increasingly troubled. "There's a chance Pollux survived," Singh said, his voice heavy. "If they utilized temporal stasis technology." Aziz nodded. "And that's not all. We're detecting anomalous energy signatures across the globe. It could be the precursor to a much larger invasion force." Harris looked out over the scarred desert landscape, his mind racing with the challenges ahead. The hard-won peace might be far more fragile than they had hoped. Harris's brow furrowed as he studied the holographic display. Pulsing red dots scattered across a global map, each representing an anomalous energy signature. Dr. Singh's voice cut through the tense silence of the command center. The readings are consistent with temporal stasis transit, Singh explained, his fingers dancing across a control panel. It's how they're bypassing years of interstellar travel. Zara leaned in, her eyes narrowing. How long until they materialize? Singh shook his head. Hours, maybe less. We need to act now. Harris straightened, his mind racing through tactical scenarios. We hit them before they fully emerge. Preemptive strikes at every potential site. Khoury, his side still bandaged from the recent battle, frowned. Our resources are stretched thin as it is. We can't cover all these locations. We have to try, Harris countered. He turned to the assembled resistance leaders. Zara, take your Bedouin warriors to the Sahara. Khoury, coordinate with the Kurdish militias in Arabia. We'll deploy everything we have. As the others rushed to mobilize, Harris caught Singh's worried glance. What is it? The scientist hesitated. There's something else. These energy signatures, they're unlike anything we've seen before. Whatever's coming, it's not just more of the same. Harris nodded grimly. Then we'd better be ready for anything. Hours later, Harris crouched behind a dune in Egypt's western desert, sweat beading on his forehead despite the pre-dawn chill. The air around him crackled with energy, setting his teeth on edge. Beside him, Zara's fingers tightened on her rifle. A blinding flash erupted on the horizon, followed by a thunderous boom. The dune shuddered beneath them as a shockwave rolled across the desert. When Harris's vision cleared, he saw a Qatarian vanguard ship materializing in midair, its hull still shimmering with temporal distortion. Now, he shouted into his comm. Concealed resistance fighters opened fire from all directions. Plasma bolts and makeshift EMP devices struck the alien vessel before its shields could fully form. The ship's temporal field flickered and collapsed, its structure twisting impossibly as phase distortions tore it apart. In seconds, the entire Qatarian cohort was atomized. Harris allowed himself a moment of satisfaction before the reality of their situation sank in. They'd won this skirmish, but across the globe, more Qatarian forces were accelerating their emergence schedules. He activated his comm. All units, report in. What's the situation? Reports flooded in from resistance cells worldwide. Some had scored victories like his own, while others were locked in desperate battles against fully materialized Qatarian strike forces. Harris's mind raced, searching for a way to turn the tide. An idea struck him. It was risky, but it might be their best chance. Khoury, he said, I need a team to get me into the Saudi empty quarter. There's a Qatarian transmitter array there we can use. Hours later, Harris stood before the alien device, its crystalline structure humming with energy. He inserted a data crystal containing carefully crafted false intelligence. I hope this works, he muttered, activating the array. Across the empty quarter, holographic projections of resistance strongholds flickered to life. Harris watched on a portable display as Tarian ships rematerialized directly into the false targets. The interaction between their stasis fields and the holograms proved catastrophic, wiping out entire strike forces in bursts of temporal energy. As the dust settled, Harris's comm crackled to life. A voice he didn't recognize spoke, the words overlaid with an alien accent. Nathan Harris, I am Zyrax, leader of the Qatarian separatist movement. Your actions have bought your world time, but I must warn you, a specialized force has already reached Earth. The Obsidian Guardians have one mission, to eliminate you and your command structure before our final invasion waves arrive. Harris's blood ran cold. He opened his mouth to respond, but the transmission cut off abruptly. He stood in silence for a moment, processing the implications of this new threat. His comm pinged again. This time, it was Ekram Aziz's voice that filled his ear. Harris, we've picked up traces of Obsidian Guardian movement. Their trail leads to Anbar province in Iraq. Whatever they're planning, it centers on that region. Harris nodded, his teeth clenched. Understood. Assemble an elite strike team. We're going hunting. As he made his way back to the transport, Harris's mind raced with possibilities. What awaited them in the canyons of Anbar? How would they track an enemy designed for stealth and assassination? And what secrets might still linger in the remnants of Saddam's old weapons programs? He climbed aboard the waiting dropship, his team already prepped and ready. As the engines roared to life, Harris knew one thing for certain. The next phase of this war would be fought in the shadows, with the fate of Earth hanging in the balance. The dropship touched down in a cloud of dust on the outskirts of Anbar province. Harris scanned the horizon, his eyes narrowing at the jagged silhouettes of distant canyons. Beside him, Zara Osman checked her gear one last time. "Thermal imaging's useless," she reported, frustration evident in her voice. "Whatever's out there, it's shielded." Harris nodded grimly. "Then we do this the hard way." The strike team fanned out, their boots crunching on sun-baked earth. Harris tapped his comm, his voice low. "Singh, what have you got?" Dr. Singh's voice crackled through. "Picking up trace radiation signatures, faint but consistent with Qatarian tech. They're using the residual contamination from Saddam's old programs as cover." "Clever," Harris muttered. "All right, deploy the probes. I want eyes in every crevice of this wasteland." Sleek insectoid drones buzzed to life, scattering across the desert landscape. For hours, the team combed the twisting canyons, sweat soaking through their uniforms as the merciless sun climbed higher. A sudden burst of static in Harris's ear made him wince. Aziz's voice came through, breathless and urgent. "Harris, I've made contact with Zyrax's faction, the Guardians. They're planning simultaneous strikes against our leadership, global in scale. We don't have much time." The transmission cut off abruptly. Harris's blood ran cold. Aziz, come in." Only silence answered. "Sir," one of the scouts called out, "we've got movement." Harris sprinted to the soldier's position, his eyes widening as he took in the holographic display. A massive subterranean structure sprawled beneath their feet, previously hidden by layers of shielding. "That's our target," Harris declared. He turned to his assembled team, his expression grim. "Aziz is compromised. We're going in hot." The plan came together with brutal efficiency. Singh's fingers flew across his portable terminal, weaving through alien firewalls. "I've got a backdoor into their security grid," he announced. "It won't last long." Harris nodded. "Zara, take your Bedouins and hit them from the flanks. Make some noise, draw out their reserves." Zara grinned fiercely, with pleasure. "Khoury," Harris continued, "I need your Kurdish fighters sealing off every exit. No one gets out alive." Asim Khoury's voice crackled over the comm. "Already in position, we'll turn this place into a meat grinder." Harris hefted his rifle. "The rest of you, with me, we're going straight down their throats." Grappling lines hissed as the strike team rappelled into inky darkness. The air grew thick with the smell of ozone and alien musk. Suddenly, plasma fire erupted from hidden alcoves. Harris caught a glimpse of lithe, predatory forms. Qatarian huntresses, their eyes glowing with murderous intent. "Push through," Harris shouted, returning fire. The narrow passageways echoed with the sounds of battle. Above ground, explosions rocked the desert as Zara's commandos engaged the obsidian reinforcements. Khoury's Kurdish fighters methodically eliminated stragglers, herding the aliens back into the underground death trap. Harris fought his way deeper into the complex, his senses on high alert. A shadow detached itself from the wall, the obsidian Prime Guardian, its armor gleaming with an otherworldly sheen. Time seemed to slow as Harris raised his weapon. The two combatants circled each other, neither willing to make the first move. In the distance, Harris could hear Singh and Osman fighting their way towards Aziz's position. The Guardian struck with blinding speed, its clawed hands a blur. Harris ducked and weaved, feeling the air displacement as attacks missed him by millimeters. He emptied his clip into the alien's chest, the rounds barely scratching its carapace. Pain exploded in Harris's side as a glancing blow connected. He stumbled, tasting blood. The Guardian loomed over him, mandibles clicking in anticipation of the kill. Harris's hand closed around a thermal detonator. With a roar of defiance, he activated it and hurled himself at his opponent. The two went down in a tangle of limbs as the device began to pulse ominously. "Sing!" Harris screamed into his comm. "Blow it! Blow it all!" The world dissolved into fire and noise. Harris felt himself falling, tumbling through collapsing tunnels as the entire underground complex imploded. Somewhere in the chaos, he glimpsed the shattered remains of the Obsidian Prime. An eternity later, Harris clawed his way out of a mound of rubble, gasping in the searing desert air. Around him, other survivors emerged, battered but alive. Zara helped Aziz to his feet, the scientist's face ashen with shock. "It's done," Harris wheezed, clutching his injured side. "We got them all." Aziz shook his head, his eyes haunted. "No, this was just the beginning. There's so much more at stake." As medical teams rushed to treat the wounded, Aziz pulled Harris aside. "The Guardians, Pollux, they're all pawns in a larger game. There's something about these deserts, about the minerals we've been fighting over. It's part of a plan we can't even begin to comprehend." Harris opened his mouth to respond, but a low rumble cut him off. He looked up, his heart sinking as he saw an ominous glow building on the horizon. "Sir?" Singh's voice crackled weakly through the comm. "You need to see this. Our long-range scanners, they're lighting up like a Christmas tree." The assembled survivors watched in horror as the sky began to fill with pinpricks of light, the vanguard of a Qatarian armada beyond anything they had faced before. Aziz's words echoed in Harris's mind as he stared at the approaching doom. Whatever victories they had won, whatever secrets they had uncovered, it was clear that the true test of humanity's survival was only just beginning. The sky blazed with the approaching Qatarian armada, but Harris's attention snapped to his comm as it crackled with urgent static. Dr. Singh's voice cut through, strained and breathless. "Harris, we're detecting massive energy spikes. Origin, deep in the Arabian desert." Aziz's eyes widened. "It's happening. The true invasion begins." Harris barked orders, mobilizing what remained of their battered forces. Within hours, a stealth dropship cut through the night sky, carrying an elite team towards the heart of the anomaly. The desert stretched endlessly below, its dunes concealing secrets beyond human comprehension. As they neared the coordinates, the ship's sensors went haywire. Singh frowned at his readouts. "Some kind of interference. We're flying blind." The landing was rough, sand swirling around them as they disembarked. Harris led the way, his team fanning out with weapons at the ready. They crested a dune and froze, confronted by an impossible sight. A massive excavation yawned before them, floodlights illuminating a hive of alien activity. Sleek insectoid forms swarmed over strange machinery, their carapaces gleaming under the harsh light. "Not Qatarian," Zara whispered, her rifle trained on the nearest alien. Harris nodded grimly. "New players. Let's find out what we're dealing with." They infiltrated the dig site, using the chaos of construction to their advantage. As they descended deeper into the earth, the air grew thick with an acrid metallic scent. Strange symbols adorned the tunnel walls, pulsing with an eerie blue light. They emerged onto a viewing platform overlooking a cavernous chamber. At its center stood a colossal device, a torus of impossible geometry, crackling with otherworldly energies. "My God," Singh breathed. "It's a quantum bridge. They're trying to punch a hole through reality itself." A booming voice echoed through the chamber. Perceptive for such a primitive species? They whirled to face a towering alien, its form a nightmarish blend of insect and machine. It regarded them with compound eyes that glowed with cold intelligence. "I am Viziak, commander of the Arafun Vanguard. Your world's minerals fuel our ascension." Harris's mind raced, connecting the pieces. "You used Pollux, the Qatarians. All of it was you." Viziak's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Mere pawns in a game beyond your comprehension. We are the shapers of reality, and soon all universes will know our dominion." The air shimmered, and more Arafun soldiers materialized around them. Harris tensed, ready for a fight, but Viziak raised a clawed appendage. "Observe," it intoned. "Witness the birth of a new cosmic order." The Taurus device thrummed to life, its center warping and twisting. Through the distortion, Harris caught glimpses of alien landscapes, impossible geometries that hurt the mind to comprehend. Alarms blared throughout the facility. Singh's eyes widened in horror as he checked his instruments. The wormholes! They're destabilizing the planet's gravitational field. Outside, the desert erupted into chaos. Massive sandstorms whipped across the dunes, fueled by artificial spacequakes that threatened to tear the region apart. Harris knew they were out of time. He keyed his emergency beacon, praying their allies were in position. The sky lit up with explosions as coalition aircraft launched their assault on the excavation site. On the ground, Khoury's forces advanced, wielding prototype weapons that crackled with barely contained energies. Viziak roared in fury, ordering its troops to defend the bridging device. Harris and his team seized the moment, fighting their way toward the control center. The battle raged across multiple fronts. Osman's Bedouin cavalry struck from the shifting sands, harrying Arafun supply lines. In the skies, human pilots dueled with insectoid fighters that phased in and out of reality. Harris's team pushed deeper into the facility, Singh working feverishly to sabotage the alien systems. They had nearly reached the main control hub when the ground shook violently. From the depths of the excavation rose monstrous forms, cybernetic behemoths that dwarfed even the largest human vehicles. Their eyes glowed with Sila energy, drawing power from the earth itself. "Fall back!" Harris shouted as one of the titans brought its foot down, crushing everything in its path. They retreated, regrouping with Khoury's forces at the perimeter. The situation looked grim, but Harris had one last risky move. "Sing the EMP charges. Can you rig them to take out the whole facility?" The scientist nodded grimly. "It'll collapse everything, but it might be our only shot." Harris gave the order. As the charges were set, he locked eyes with Viziak across the battlefield. The alien commander's mandibles worked furiously, sensing defeat. "You cannot stop what is to come," Viziak's voice boomed. "We are infinite. We are eternal." Harris allowed himself a grim smile. "Maybe, but not today." The EMP detonated, a wave of energy washing over the excavation site. The bridging device sputtered and died, its connection to the Arafun homeworld severed. The entire facility began to collapse in on itself, burying the alien technology beneath tons of rock and sand. As the dust settled, Harris surveyed the aftermath. They had won, but at a terrible cost, and he knew the war was a long way to go. "Sir," a scout reported, "we're tracking multiple Arafun signatures. They're scattering into the desert." Harris nodded, his eyes sharp. A new phase of the conflict had begun, a shadow war against an enemy that could reshape reality itself. He turned to his battered but determined team, ready to face whatever cosmic horrors awaited them in the vast, unforgiving desert. The desert winds howled, carrying the acrid scent of ozone and burnt sand. Harris squinted against the grit, his mind racing as he processed the enormity of their situation. The Arafun threat had scattered, but far from dissipated. "Sir?" a voice crackled through his comm. It was Aziz, his tone urgent. "I've decoded fragments of Arafun data. It's worse than we thought." Harris motioned for his team to gather close. "What have you got, Doctor?" Aziz's holographic form flickered to life from Harris's wrist device. "They're targeting convergence points, nexuses where ancient desert energies intersect. At these locations, they can see dimensional breaches, gradually unraveling the fabric of our reality." Zara Osman's eyes narrowed. "How do we stop them?" "We hunt," Harris replied, his voice grim. "Aziz, coordinate with Singh. I want every scrap of data analyzed. Osman, take your Bedouins and start sweeping the Sahara. Khoury, get your Kurdish teams ready for rapid deployment." The resistance sprang into action. Within hours, scout teams were combing the most remote desert regions of the planet. Harris found himself in the vast emptiness of the Tenere, following leads on Arafun activity. A distress call crackled through the comms. "This is Osman. We've engaged hostiles near pre-Saharan ruins. They're constructing some kind of obelisks. Reality's going haywire." Harris's blood ran cold. "Osman, hold position. We're en route." By the time they arrived, the scene was one of devastation. Osman's Bedouin fighters lay scattered across the dunes, their bodies withered and aged beyond recognition. In the center of the carnage stood an array of alien obelisks, pulsing with otherworldly energy. "Look out!" Khoury's voice rang out as a hoverlander screamed overhead. The Kurdish commandos unleashed a barrage of fire, their kamikaze strike obliterating the obelisks in a massive explosion. As the dust settled, Harris surveyed the aftermath. "We need to get ahead of this. Singh, what have you got?" The scientist's voice was strained. "I've combined terranetic sensors with archaeological data. We've identified potential convergence points across the globe. But Harris, there's activity at Uluru. It's Viziak." Harris's heart made. "Khoury, Osman, divide our forces. Secure those convergence points. I'm taking a team to Australia." The red heart of the outback loomed before them as Harris's team touched down. Uluru's ancient presence seemed to vibrate with tension, as if the very rock knew what was coming. They found Viziak atop the monolith, surrounded by crackling energy. The Arafun commander's compound eyes gleamed with malice. "You are too late, human," Viziak's voice boomed. "Witness the unmaking of your world." A wave of energy pulsed outward. Harris watched in horror as his soldiers began to disintegrate, their very atoms coming apart. "Sing!" Harris shouted into his comm. "We need options." The doctor's voice was weak, fading. "Electromagnetic shielding pulse. It might buy you time." With his last breath, Singh activated the device. Harris felt his particles coalesce, granting him precious moments. Harris charged, dodging Viziak's attacks. The two collided in a fury of blows, human tenacity against alien strength. They grappled at the edge of the rock face, surrounded by the crumbling remnants of ancient art. With a desperate lunge, Harris seized Viziak's staff. The alien's eyes widened in shock as Harris snapped the weapon in two. Viziak let out an inhuman screech. "If I cannot reshape reality, then I shall unmake it entirely." The Arafun commander's body began to glow, cosmic energies pouring through him. Harris knew there was no escape. As the world around them dissolved into blinding light, Harris thought of Earth, of humanity's resilience. His last act was to tackle Viziak, ensuring the alien would not survive this final play. The explosion ripped across the outback, a maelstrom of entropic force that scoured the land clean of life. Hours later, Khoury and Osman stood at the edge of the devastation. Where Uluru once stood, there was now only a massive crater. No trace remained of Harris or Viziak, only the haunting whisper of the wind through empty canyons. Osman's voice was barely a whisper. "What now?" Khoury's eyes scanned the horizon, his expression a mix of weariness and dedication. "We keep fighting. There are more out there, more threats beyond our comprehension." As the sun set over the ruined landscape, casting long shadows across the barren expanse, both soldiers knew that this was a long way to go. The deserts of Earth had become a cosmic battlefield, and humanity's struggle for survival had only just begun.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.